Welcome to the Home Grow series presented by the Evolution Magazine. It is Thursday evening, November 12th, 2020, here at Happy Rock Farms. Tonight's show is presented by Todd Scattini of Harvest 360 with co-host Chris Wolfenbarger, both retired United States veterans. Tonight's episode is focused on educating the veteran community on the current state of cannabis and how it applies to veteran health, wellness, and employment opportunities, with special guest retired Major General Tod Bunting and special honored guest retired Colonel Donald Doc Ballard. Stay tuned for a very important show with powerful personal stories from United States veterans. The show starts at 7 p.m. And now a word from our sponsors.
The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association is working toward a cannabis industry that maintains local control over a free market full of genuine Missouri-owned businesses. This free market should facilitate access to quality medicine at affordable prices. We mention prices because we don't feel like it's adequate to simply have medical cannabis available. An adequate supply must be available at affordable prices so that patients can purchase as much medication as they need and aren't limited strictly by finances. We feel the best route to accomplish this is to lift total license caps for the industry because, by doing so, natural market competition will create supplies and prices that are very patient-friendly. We are also working to amend the Missouri Constitution to allow for adult use cannabis, protect home growers' rights, and to expand the caregiver program so that your fine skills can help more people have access to the medicine they need. If these initiatives sound appealing to you, we need your help. Your help will strengthen our voice and include your own. With memberships starting at $10 a month, check out mocia.org for more information on benefits and discounts. Now, sit back, relax with your favorite medicine, and enjoy the show.
This Veterans Day, Fresh Green celebrates the bravery and sacrifice of all our veterans. As we honor all those who have served and continue to serve, we must never forget that freedom is never free, and everyone at Fresh Green expresses their sincerest gratitude and admiration for all those that have proudly served, sacrificed, and paid the price for our freedom. Thank you all. Fresh Green is currently open in Lee Summit. Check out freshgreen.com for hours, inventory, and more.
Hey everybody, Big V here coming to you from Kansas City, and there's so many exciting things going on here since we've been given the freedom to use medical cannabis. And one of the things that we've been given the freedom to do is to grow our own cannabis. And so there's a lot of people out there right now, maybe you're one of them, who's thinking about growing their own medication so they're not spending the high prices that it costs to get it from the dispensary or wherever they're going to get it from. And that's where I come in. I'm going to teach you from start to finish how to grow your own medication, what equipment you need, get you set up and work with you to customize a program that fits your particular situation. Most of my clients that come to me, they're new, they've never grown at all, and they have absolutely no idea where to start. And so I'm going to walk you through and help you understand the laws. I'm going to help you understand how to stay compliant and teach you how to do all the little things that you need to know to be successful from here on out. So if you're struggling, maybe you've been out there looking through the internet trying to find the answers and you just can't get them all together in one place, get a hold of me, KC Grow Coach, www.kcgrowcoach.com, and I can definitely help you get to where you want to go and accomplish your goals as far as cultivating your own medication.
Green Gene Terpene here backstage at the Cannabis Bowl Nationals, the Auto Grow-a-thon, a 4-state competition pitting grower against grower, where they all grow the magic melon auto flower from Humboldt seeds. Tonight, I'm joined by the Missouri Madman. What brings you into this competition, sir?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing, Green Jean. 25 large. And I'm going to be in charge when I put my stamp on the rest of the competition.
There you have it. The madman means business. We're going to kick this back to you, Bill.
Harvest 360 is a veteran-led and veteran-focused organization committed to developing a fair and equitable cannabis industry in Missouri and across the United States. They are excited to shine a light on the stories of veterans who are benefiting from cannabis and who are demonstrating great leadership in the industry and activist arenas. They believe that the re-legalization of cannabis and hemp is a paradigm shift that will result in better health outcomes as well as business and employment opportunities for veterans and their families. Join them throughout the month of November as they celebrate America's military heritage and the veterans who have served to defend the United States and her allies. Tonight's episode is streaming live from Happy Rock Farms, conveniently located in the heart of Midtown, Kansas City, Missouri. Happy Rock Farms strives every day to provide the very best equipment, tools, supplies, and expertise to growers at all experience levels. Owned and operated by growers for growers, more than just another retail store, a space for research, learning, and community building. With a price match guarantee, you can rest assured that you'll always get the best products for the best price in town. Open daily from 10 to 7, Sundays noon to 4. Happy Rock Farms, fine gardening, and hydroponic solutions. Tonight's video is provided by Cat King Films. Check this out. Cat King Films is offering promotional content, commercials, training videos, wedding videos, and documentary-style video production at an affordable price. A free consultation comes with every project to ensure that it is personalized to your brand. Check out previous projects by exploring the different sections on the newly launched website at catkingfilms.com. Level Up Audio Visuals is your local source for cutting-edge audio, visual, and lighting technology. From digital signage and animated menu boards to multi-room audio and video distribution. Need a little help with live broadcasting? Do you want to learn about the many new tools to take your content to the next level? We can help you level up. Visit our website today, levelupav.com. We can even put graphics on a cake. Please take a moment to acknowledge our network affiliates and streaming affiliates across the state of Missouri. The Home Grow series is made possible by the cooperation of many groups coming together to provide an educational platform for the community. We'd like to thank all our affiliates and sponsors, and will feature different groups each week. Now stay tuned for the Home Grow series, starting at 7 p.m., just moments ahead. Welcome to the Home Grow series presented by the Evolution magazine. It is Thursday evening, November 12th, 2020, here at Happy Rock Farms. Tonight's show is presented by Todd Scattini of Harvest 360 with co-host Chris Wolfenbarger, both retired United States veterans. Tonight's episode is focused on educating the veteran community on the current state of cannabis and how it applies to veteran health, wellness, and employment opportunities, with special guest retired Major General Tod Bunting and special honored guest retired Colonel Donald Doc Ballard. Stay tuned for a very important show with powerful personal stories from United States veterans. The show starts at 7 p.m. And now a word from our sponsors.
The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association is working toward a cannabis industry that maintains local control over a free market full of genuine Missouri-owned businesses. This free market should facilitate access to quality medicine at affordable prices. We mention prices because we don't feel like it's adequate to simply have medical cannabis available. An adequate supply must be available at affordable prices so that patients can purchase as much medication as they need and aren't limited strictly by finances. We feel the best route to accomplish this is to lift total license caps for the industry because, by doing so, natural market competition will create supplies and prices that are very patient-friendly. We are also working to amend the Missouri Constitution to allow for adult use cannabis, protect home growers' rights, and to expand the caregiver program so that your fine skills can help more people have access to the medicine they need. If these initiatives sound appealing to you, we need your help. Your help will strengthen our voice and include your own. With memberships starting at $10 a month, check out mocia.org for more information on benefits and discounts. Now, sit back, relax with your favorite medicine, and enjoy the show.
This Veterans Day, Fresh Green celebrates the bravery and sacrifice of all our veterans. As we honor all those who have served and continue to serve, we must never forget that freedom is never free, and everyone at Fresh Green expresses their sincerest gratitude and admiration for all those that have proudly served, sacrificed, and paid the price for our freedom. Thank you all. Fresh Green is currently open in Lee Summit. Check out freshgreen.com for hours, inventory, and more.
Hey everybody, Big V here coming to you from Kansas City, and there's so many exciting things going on here since we've been given the freedom to use medical cannabis. And one of the things that we've been given the freedom to do is to grow our own cannabis. And so there's a lot of people out there right now, maybe you're one of them, who's thinking about growing their own medication so they're not spending the high prices that it costs to get it from the dispensary or wherever they're going to get it from. And that's where I come in. I'm going to teach you from start to finish how to grow your own medication, what equipment you need, get you set up and work with you to customize a program that fits your particular situation. Most of my clients that come to me, they're new, they've never grown at all, and they have absolutely no idea where to start. And so I'm going to walk you through and help you understand the laws. I'm going to help you understand how to stay compliant and teach you how to do all the little things that you need to know to be successful from here on out. So if you're struggling, maybe you've been out there looking through the internet trying to find the answers and you just can't get them all together in one place, get a hold of me, KC Grow Coach, www.kcgrowcoach.com, and I can definitely help you get to where you want to go and accomplish your goals as far as cultivating your own medication.
Green Gene Terpene here backstage at the Cannabis Bowl Nationals, the Auto Growathon, a 4-state competition pitting grower against grower, where they all grow the magic melon auto flower from Humboldt seeds. Tonight, I'm joined by the Missouri Madman. What brings you into this competition, sir?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing, Green Gene. 25 large. And I'm going to be in charge when I put my stamp on the rest of the competition.
There you have it. The Madman means business. We're going to kick this back to you, Bill.
Harvest 360 is a veteran-led and veteran-focused organization committed to developing a fair and equitable cannabis industry in Missouri and across the United States. They are excited to shine a light on the stories of veterans who are benefiting from cannabis and who are demonstrating great leadership in the industry and activist arenas. They believe that the re-legalization of cannabis and hemp is a paradigm shift that will result in better health outcomes as well as business and employment opportunities for veterans and their families. Join them throughout the month of November as they celebrate America's military heritage and the veterans who have served to defend the United States and her allies. Tonight's episode is streaming live from Happy Rock Farms, conveniently located in the heart of Midtown, Kansas City, Missouri. Happy Rock Farms strives every day to provide the very best equipment, tools, supplies, and expertise to growers at all experience levels. Owned and operated by growers for growers, more than just another retail store, a space for research, learning, and community building. With a price match guarantee, you can rest assured that you'll always get the best products for the best price in town. Open daily from 10 to 7, Sundays noon to 4. Happy Rock Farms, fine gardening and hydroponic solutions. Tonight's video is provided by Cat King Films. Check this out. Cat King Films is offering promotional content, commercials, training videos, wedding videos, and documentary-style video production at an affordable price. A free consultation comes with every project to ensure that it is personalized to your brand. Check out previous projects by exploring the different sections on the newly launched website at catkingfilms.com. Level Up Audio Visuals is your local source for cutting-edge audio, visual, and lighting technology. From digital signage and animated menu boards to multi-room audio and video distribution. Need a little help with live broadcasting? Do you want to learn about the many new tools to take your content to the next level? We can help you level up. Visit our website today, levelupav.com. We can even put graphics on a cake. Please take a moment to acknowledge our network affiliates and streaming affiliates across the state of Missouri. The Home Grow series is made possible by the cooperation of many groups coming together to provide an educational platform for the community. We'd like to thank all our affiliates and sponsors, and will feature different groups each week. Now stay tuned for the Home Grow series, starting at 7 p.m., just moments ahead.
Hello, Missouri cannabis friends and family, Evolution, Missouri patients. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode number 31 of the Home Grow series, and boy, what a show do we have for you tonight. We have some major veteran activists in the room tonight. We're going to bring some really just amazing people on some Zoom calls. We have 4 people lined up via Zoom. We have 2 hosts, and then we also have a few veterans in the audience tonight. Tonight, our host is retired Lieutenant Colonel Todd Scattini, and then co-host retired veteran Sergeant Chris Wolfenbarger. And then I'm going to let them introduce the rest of the guys as we bring them on the call. Some very highly decorated veterans, and we have some great conversation to talk about tonight. Before I pitch it over to those guys, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, MCIA. Missouri's first Cannabis Industry Association has a great patient caregiver program. Go to their website, check it out. We're going to have a great show next month with them. We're going to potentially be doing some live cooking, infused cooking for the holidays, so stay tuned for that show. Of course, Humboldt Green and the Cannabis Bowl, the Auto Grow-a-thon, that's in full swing. We're getting closer to that coming to an end. We're going to check in with Bo towards the end of this month on the Hoosiers show and check in on the growers. The Hoosiers have started, they're about to start growing for themselves, so it's going to be fun watching them go through the trials and tribulations of learning how to grow. And then also Casey Grow Coach, his show is going to be next week. We're going to talk about in that show how to make the most of your grow, and of course some great grow advice from one of Kansas City's best growers. So tune into that show. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Also, The CannaCare team, April, dropped off some goodies for us earlier and some goodies for the veterans here in the audience and hosting the show tonight. They're going to be doing free nurse consultations for any vet throughout the month of November. So it's a free 1-hour nurse consultation about cannabis. You can reach out to the Cannabis Care team on their social media or on their website, and they will take care of you guys. Big thank you to our vets there. Lastly, we want to thank Fresh Green Dispensary, one of the very first dispensaries to open up on the Kansas City side. There's still lines outside their dispensary, but they took it went out of their way to give us a couple of free gift certificates for free medicine. We're going to be giving those away to vets tonight. So if you happen to know a vet, you just tag their name in the comments. Not only are we going to be giving away free medicine, but we're also going to be giving away some free certifications. Elevate Holistics donated those through the Veterans Patient Access Foundation. That's an organization that Chris Wolfenbarger started up. So tonight, if you know any vets, tag them in the comments. We're going to be giving away the certifications. We're going to be giving away free medicine. But most importantly, we're going to be giving away some amazing content, some amazing conversation tonight. So without further ado, let's pass it on over to the host, Todd Scattini, and co-host Chris Wolfenbarger.
Great. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'd first like to say thank you very much to Evolution Magazine and the Home Grow Show for letting us take over the airwaves tonight. This is a phenomenal opportunity for all of us. I would also like to thank Chris over at Happy Rock Farms, where we're filming live from right now. And I would also like to say thank you and welcome to everyone who is tuning in today, and I hope it's a lot. I think this is an incredibly important conversation for us to have about veterans and access to cannabis to treat the wounds of war, both visible and invisible. And we're going to talk tonight a little bit about some of our own personal stories. I'm so honored to be here with my good friend, Sergeant Chris Wolfenbarger, retired combat medic. He's going to share his story with you tonight and kind of what brought him here. We also have 4 phenomenal guests calling in on Zoom tonight. We have my close personal friend and business partner, David Serrano, Navy vet, named one of the top 65 men of color working in the cannabis industry today, deeply focused on social justice and social equity within the cannabis industry. He is our chief of business development and just a phenomenal person, and I'm excited for him to tell you a little bit about his story with cannabis and a little bit of a run-in with the VA and how that works out. We'll be followed by Colonel retired Dr. Philip Blair, who is the chief medical advisor for Harvest 360. He is also a graduate of West Point in 1972. He graduated, full career as a Army physician, and then followed that up with a full career as a civilian physician, and for several years, for the last 6 to 8 years, has been doing nothing but cannabis research using CBD and observing that with patients. We've also got a multi-state crowd in because we'll be calling in Major General retired Tod Bunting, former Adjutant General of the Kansas National Guard. And we're so excited to have someone of his stature in our conversation tonight because we believe it's incredibly important. And then, of course, tonight, our honored guest will be Colonel retired Donald Doc Ballard, a CMH recipient, the recipient of our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor, and giving his views on cannabis as a medicine and just trying to understand what the realm of the future could hold for us. So we're really excited tonight. I'd also like to say welcome to some of our in-studio guests. We've been joined tonight by some serious Kansas activists. We certainly work very closely across the state lines here between Missouri and Kansas, and so we've got some Kansas activists that have showed up tonight. George Hanna is the Associate Executive Director of Kansas NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, the oldest activist organization for marijuana in the country. We also have Daniel Shafton, one of the lead organizers for the Kansas Cannabis Business Association. So there's a lot of activity taking place in the Sunflower State, and I think recognizing kind of the shift that is taking place in the United States, especially with this last election where we went 5 for 5 this time. We have 4 states that voted for legal cannabis and 1 other state that voted for medical cannabis, and we'll talk a little bit about them. Because it's a huge shift. There's so much momentum in this space that it seems unstoppable. Also joining us in the studio today is a veteran activist, Air Force veteran, Kansas City Normal board member George Biswell is with us tonight. Welcome, George. Papa Biz, well known to the Kansas City community. So we're super excited to have him here. One thing I want to do is give a quick disclaimer. I know a lot of people are tuning in tonight, and I just want to say that none of us are speaking on behalf of all veterans tonight. We're speaking probably on behalf of most veterans who through a number of different surveys that have been done by the American Legion and other veteran service organizations. We know that a huge amount of veterans really want access to medical cannabis as an option to treat the wounds of war, both visible and invisible. But we don't speak for all of them. I get it. I don't speak for every West Point graduate. I realize that, but I do want to tell you about one West Point graduate that I just found out about recently, another Congressional Medal of Honor recipient that I recently read about. I'll share that with you in a moment. We don't speak for all Missourians, we don't speak for all Americans, but we are providing our insight, our opinions, and our thoughts, and hopefully you find it educational and maybe a little entertaining, and Chris is probably funny, I'm not, but
I'll take that opportunity to say that I don't speak for all combat medics. And you said West Point graduate?
Yeah.
You don't speak for all West Point graduates? I don't speak for all Lee Summit High School graduates. So there you go, Todd.
Thank you very much. Well, perfect. Tonight I really see this as a call to action, a veteran's call to action, a military call to action. This is an opportunity for us to have this conversation, this really important conversation, and listen up, because we are a community in crisis. The veteran community that I just came into after 2.5 years ago is in crisis. We have significantly elevated levels of suicide. We all know the number of at least 22 veterans per day are choosing to take their own life. At least 10 more are overdosing on opioid medications on a daily basis. So looking through a leader's eyes, this looks like a crisis. We have significant issues with post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, insomnia, significant issues that surface from traumatic brain injuries, a very common injury in combat today, especially due to the advent of the IED and the concussion that creates in combat. We have an opportunity here. We have veterans who are unemployed and homeless, and we believe that the re-legalization of cannabis and hemp may be able to address a number of these issues. So today we're going to have a great conversation about that, and I think that our guests that we have today are going to shed a lot of light and a lot of color on that. I do want to start off with telling a little bit about my story. Again, my name is Lieutenant Colonel retired Todd Scattini. The first place that I ever wore a uniform after I flew on my first airplane flight from California to St. Louis was Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Private Scattini showed up with nothing on his sleeves at all. They shaved my head. They threw a uniform on me, and I ended up not taking it off for 27 years. The Army ended up teaching me 5 different languages. Through some grand administrative error, I made it into the West Point Preparatory School, and then I graduated from West Point in 1996. I was commissioned as an armor officer. I served, my first duty station was Fort Riley, Kansas. Had a great time there and learned a lot about Kansas people and made some wonderful friends that we're still very close with today. Then I went to Germany, where I served as a cavalry troop commander for Alpha Troop 14 Cav, prepared and loyal. Then I became what's called a foreign area officer. A foreign area officer is a special type of Army officer that the Army trains to focus on particular regions of the world. I was very fortunate because at that point I spoke a couple of European languages, so I got to focus on Europe. That took me to everywhere from the Czech Republic, where I served for a year and went to their equivalent of the Command and General Staff College. I served in Belgium as an exchange officer to the Belgian Army for 2 years, which was an incredible experience to work with such a great NATO ally. Following that, I was selected to be the Army attaché to Bosnia. So I came back to Washington, D.C. I learned Serbo-Croatian, went to Bosnia for 2 years, followed that up with 2 years in France, where I was the TRADOC liaison officer to the French Army for 2 years, an incredible time. During that time period, I went to Afghanistan for 6 months, where I was honored to serve as a special advisor to the ISAF commander for 6 months, where I got to sit in with essentially the Eisenhower of the Afghanistan campaign, leading, watching a man lead a 50-nation coalition, the largest military coalition that has ever existed, and watch how that went. And it was actually there where I started the journey down this path when I started researching hemp. After Paris, I was really privileged to be the defense attaché to Slovenia for 3.5 years. Another NATO ally that I got to serve with. And then finally, my last duty station was across the river here at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, at the Command and General Staff College, where I was privileged to teach future generation of officers about strategy and about how that's employed overseas. And it was just one of the great honors of my life to do that. Being a veteran is my third favorite title, my third favorite moniker. First one is husband, second one's dad, and then veteran, because we're a special group. Especially veteran, because
we're honored
in
to serve.
Veteran, we're all equalized. We all served.
Absolutely.
So I think we have some very special veterans today that are going to join us. A little bit about my journey. People always ask me how a lieutenant colonel or an Army officer gets involved in cannabis. While I was serving in Afghanistan, I was asked to kind of look for ways to create an industry for the Afghans so that we didn't have to pay for them for decades,
Right.
like the Soviets tried to do. We wanted to use local resources, and I knew they had 3, right? They had very rare minerals, and they're in all of our phones. They're all sold to the Chinese now. They're all owned by the Chinese. So I couldn't do anything with that. They have, and I don't know anything about minerals.
Right.
They had heroin, which obviously I didn't know anything about that and didn't really have much use for it. And they had cannabis in huge swaths, right? Large
Absolutely.
swaths, which had increased tenfold since we arrived there in 2001, ironically. And I knew a little bit of something about agriculture. My grandpa was a California cotton farmer, right? And so I knew about putting seeds in the ground, and I grew up in California, so I knew a little bit about cannabis already. And I'm sorry, getting waved. And so I said, why don't we transition the Afghans to a hemp industry, right? We've got 25,000 different uses for this, 8,000 years of human history we've had with this plant. We've essentially evolved with this plant. It's a plant that can provide us with food, fuel, fiber, building material, and medicine.
Absolutely.
So when I started looking at that, I turned to the staff and to the general and I said, why don't we transition them to a hemp industry? The bonus would be you grow hemp around high THC cannabis. It'll go to seed very quickly. It'll weaken. And the profits that were coming back from prohibition markets to fund the Taliban would be lower. I thought it was genius. They thought I was Cheech and Chong. But it's cool, though, because I was absolutely hooked on this subject. When I learned about the roots of our own prohibition, which has only been since 1937, right? Up until that point, it was
Right.
the second most prescribed medicine in the American pharmacopoeia and was used to treat everything from colic to PMS to pain to psychiatric issues. Up until then, we used cannabis very widely. So So I started to see that the prohibition had led to a number of different things, especially with its unequal application to communities. The prohibition was being applied to unequal applications within different communities, especially poor communities of color. There are numbers out there showing that if you're an African American or if you're Hispanic, you're 4 to 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than if you look like me. I felt that was un-American. I started to look at the prison population, right, and saw that this, as a woman named Michelle Alexander put out in her book, The New Jim Crow, said this is the new Jim Crow. This is how we incarcerate a population. We have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prisoners, right? That's in the land of the free. 25% of the world's prisoners. We imprison more people than Russia and China. We imprison more people than any other country in the world, and I thought it was un-American. And then when I looked into the roots and their economic backgrounds and the greed that was associated with it, that was associated with this prohibition, right? 1937, after the re-legalization of alcohol, you had an entire federal organization that's the precursor to the DEA. They were running out of money, and so they decided to turn their sights on cannabis. One, to control the Hispanic population and the African American population, and then what the big magic was when big corporations got involved. All right, that includes the Hearst Media Corporation, DuPont Chemical. All of these big corporations got in because within the media you had William Randolph Hearst, who several years earlier had about 8,000 acres of his forestry in Mexico stolen by a fellow named Pancho Villa, who took it back. And he was running this newspaper empire that was fueled by his timber production and paper production. Well, he was concerned because at that point we had figured out how to make paper out of cannabis incredibly well and very efficiently with a product that you could get 4 crops a year out.
Absolutely.
Right around that time too, the DuPont Chemical Company had figured out how to make plastic out of dead dinosaurs, whereas fellows like Henry Ford had figured out how to make composites out of hemp. And you can even look this up on YouTube. You can look up Henry Ford hemp car, and you'll see a car that is made entirely out of hemp composite, and you'll see Henry Ford hitting it with a sledgehammer with no dents in it. And the bonus, it ran on hemp fuel.
In Europe right now, BMW and Mercedes are making vehicles that have doors made from hemp that are stronger than steel, lighter than aluminum, and more resilient than plastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's good enough for Mercedes and BMW, I can't imagine that it's not good enough for American-made vehicles.
Absolutely. So we're starting to grow here in great numbers with hemp. Hemp is coming back. Hemp is now legal since the 2018 Farm Bill passed. Now hemp has been taken off of the Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. But how it got there is what really fired me up, right? And how I thought that this was just an un-American thing and I wanted to be involved in it. But then I started looking at medicine. I looked at this as medication, right? And when I found that the U.S. government has a patent, 6630507, that shows cannabinoids, that says we believe cannabinoids have great potential as an anti-inflammatory, as an antioxidant, and a neuroprotectant. I thought, well, why aren't we using this, right? We have soldiers coming out of combat with traumatic brain injuries regularly, and it affects your life significantly. Yeah, and Chris is one of them. We know that folks with traumatic brain injury are more likely to have suicidal ideation and to complete suicide. They're much more likely to have post-traumatic stress. And I wanted to see if there was a way that we could use the properties of cannabis as a neuroprotectant to potentially increase neuroplasticity and prepare our soldiers for these ischemic insults that come with an IED attack or something like that. So really fascinating times. We have done research in the past on cannabis in the military. Right? You probably didn't know that.
I did not know that, and I'm very excited to hear about it.
Yeah, well, I did dig up that there was one major general in the 1800s because, like I said, cannabis was a huge medicine before 1937 for all of us. In the 1800s, a fella named, what is his name? Major General, Major General Carter, who graduated from West Point in 1873 and won the was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his action in the Indian Wars. He wrote a book called Saddles and Bridles, and it was all about, he is a cavalryman, and what he thought that we should be bringing into combat. One of the things was cannabis. Cannabis tinctures for horses, as it would treat their colic and their digestive issues, because on the plains, just west of where I sit right now, in Kansas City, Missouri, on the plains, the horses were eating thistles and things like that, and they would get bound up, and that was your vehicle back in those days.
Right.
So he said, bring the weed. And
what do you call a
well.
cavalryman or a dragoon without a horse?
Tell me.
Dead.
We will find a way. The cavalry will find a way. The next research that we did was in 1925, when the U.S. Army was down in Panama, and the soldiers were down there, and they were smoking cannabis with local Panamanians that were growing it, and the Army wanted to figure out a way to prohibit this, and they did a study. I think this is the study probably that they based the opening scene of Pineapple Express off of, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yes.
Just absolutely. Look up the opening scene of Pineapple Express. If you haven't seen it,
it's hysterical, and
you'll see Private Miller. I considered myself Private Miller for a very long time because anyway, they did research in 1925 in Panama. They took 35 soldiers, and for 4 months they let them use cannabis. Between 1 cannabis cigarette and 20 cannabis cigarettes per day. The average was 5. And at the end, they said, we see no issue, and we shouldn't really prohibit that. That was the official findings of the board. And then the Army said, thank you very much. It's prohibited. Keep working on the canal.
And here we are 95 years later, and a reoccurring theme of this show tonight from all levels of leadership will be the problems that have been presented to them as leaders of troops from alcohol, and then the benefits of what they have seen cannabis do for veterans as they've served previously.
Yeah.
And that theme will come again and again and again tonight from all levels of leadership and from all areas of expertise, be it cavalry and armor leaders or from myself and Doc Ballard from the medical side.
Fantastic. Yeah. So tonight we have a multi-generational conversation. We have a multi-service conversation. The only thing we don't have represented tonight are the Marines for some reason, but we'll get some Marines on. And I hope that we do this again. I really want to do this again because there's too much to talk about, and there are too many veterans who are either having great benefit from the cannabis plant, or finding employment within the cannabis industry,
Absolutely.
or somehow being positively affected by this. And it's something that should not be ignored. And it shouldn't be ignored by anyone at the Pentagon. It shouldn't be ignored by anyone within the U.S. government. And it should be something that we're actually reaching out to, because the Department of Defense, in my view, should be on the forward-leading edge of medical cannabis research. Right? The U.S. military has been responsible for so many medical advances, right? We're talking all the way back to the Revolutionary War, when the U.S. Army was inoculating their soldiers with smallpox, because there was a huge smallpox outbreak, and they began to inoculate people to protect them from it, right? Mm-hmm. Advanced amputation. Plastic surgery stems from military activity and military research, and more of that, right? Advanced trauma.
Everything I learned in combat medic school was a direct offshoot of lessons learned in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So corpsmen and medics like Doc Ballard, when he speaks, the things that they learned on the battlefield were the tactics and training that I received in the early 2000s on my way to the Afghanistan theater of war.
Right.
So the military has the civilian world has a perceived notion of the United States military as a stick in the mud, non-forward thinking entity, when in fact it couldn't possibly be more different.
Yeah, for sure.
And we do learn from our mistakes, and we do try to do that, and we do it because Todd comes from the top down in the military. I come from the bottom up. Every leader that I ever had in the military wanted to bring me home alive. No one ever wants to write that letter to a spouse that they didn't, their leadership resulted in the loss of that troop. And that is homogenous across all branches of the military, all generations of war, and all theaters of conflict. Every leader wants to bring home every one of their men and women.
Absolutely, because we are leaders and we are a team. We are a family. This is a question of leadership, right? I am asking the DoD directly to show bold, courageous leadership, right? To really, instead of fighting our last wars, let's fight our future wars. Let's forward and create what I believe could be a revolution in medical affairs. And I don't use that term lightly. We say revolution in military affairs. We taught those across the river at Fort Leavenworth, and we teach it at West Point. Revolutions in military affairs include things like the invention of new stuff, like a stirrup, for example.
Right.
That allowed people to fight mounted on a horse. The rail line would change the way we resupply, computers, all of this stuff. Cannabis could be a revolution in medical affairs, because this is probably the most therapeutically active plant that has ever existed, right?
Absolutely.
And it works on this system within our body called the endocannabinoid system, and I believe Dr. Philip Blair will likely touch on the endocannabinoid system tonight, which is a system that runs through our body, just as important as our central nervous system, our endocrine system, and all that. The endocannabinoid system. Ask your doctor if they know anything about it.
They probably had one day on it. That's serious. Most typical MDs have a day, maybe two, on the endocannabinoid system. And the more we learn, the more we realize that it might be the molecular control system for the human body. Yeah. Everybody assumes, because we live in an electronic age and we've got all these electronic microphones and these cameras, that it's the nervous system that's running the show, but trees don't have any of that.
Yeah.
And they're still growing. And animals are still doing those things. They're not using electricity. The molecular control system for the body, the endocannabinoid system, has so many interactions with every other system that it could be argued that it might be running the show.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are fairly certain that it is responsible for equilibrium, everything from, stasis in our mood, stasis in our digestion, our metabolism. If you look out there and see the wide range of ailments that this plant is addressing, I think you'll recognize that this plant is pretty powerful, and we should be harnessing that, and for the good.
Absolutely. That brings me to the second thing that I bet every one of our veteran leaders in the community will speak to today. And I'm looking at you, Veterans Administration.
Yeah.
This is a call to action for research on this plant. As a veteran and a medic and a combat medic, we want this plant researched for what it can do for our veteran community. And I bet you a nickel every single one of our guests will say something about a call to action for research tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I learned in the Army, they taught us from day one, even Private Scattini learned this lesson. You don't come to your boss with the problem, you come with the solution. So we know what the problem is. The problem is that 22 veterans a day are committing suicide. We know that veterans are overdosing. We know that veterans are suffering from traumatic brain injury. And we are part of the veteran community out here that is very loud and receiving incredible benefit from this plant. We think that the Department of Defense could lead the way, right? And here's why. One, you got skin in the game, right? We got skin in the game. And veterans, uniquely, are across every single federal organization and every business all across the country.
Every demographic.
Absolutely. So we are really a cross-section of the United States. We are the largest patient population in the country. We have 17 million veterans. We have 9 million who receive their health care from the Veterans Administration. There are over 150 VA hospitals across the country, 1,200 clinics across the country. We have a distribution system that goes across the country. And if you don't want to do the entire country all at once, you can do it in one state. I think you should do it in a state in the middle of the country. We should do it in Missouri. That's why we're here in Kansas City today. We have the best medical cannabis program in the country for a couple of reasons, right? And we worked really hard, and there are people in this room who worked really hard to get this passed, and I'm incredibly proud of it. We have a long list of qualifying conditions with that silver bullet of if a doctor feels that a patient could benefit from the use of cannabis, then he or she may provide a recommendation to that person, and they can access it. We have a 4% tax rate, which is the lowest tax in the country, which that 4% goes back to veterans and veterans services to prevent homelessness and to improve education, to do a number of different things.
Absolutely.
Right? Not to mention, we have almost 200 dispensaries that will be opened up in the state, 60 cultivators, 86 processors, 10 test labs. We've got the system. We have 4 VA hospitals in this state. Each of them have a relationship with the University of Missouri and other academic institutions around the state and around the region. We've got it going on here. We're in a fledgling state. So if the VA and the DOD would want to come together in one location, it seems like coming right here and doing it with people who are connected with all of this could make it happen, right? If someone were able to look at this and show bold, courageous leadership,
real leadership,
and look at this plant as an opportunity to not only increase the survivability of our soldiers in combat, but to also treat the veterans and the families that have served in this country. So it's a huge opportunity. We can't miss it, because we look across the border to Kansas on our way to fully legal medical and adult use state, and we go through one of our last full prohibition states, right? No medical cannabis, no adult use cannabis. You will definitely get a free ride in a cop car if you show up in Overland Park, Kansas, with your medical cannabis that someone got you from the state of Missouri.
I'm a certified real estate appraiser in the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, and I appraise routinely on both sides of the state line, and I have to be mindful of whether or not I have my medicine in my vehicle, because what do you call a Missouri patient on the other side of the state line with their medicine? A felon.
Criminal, man.
A felon, a criminal, and
ruin your life.
Subject to not only ruining your life, but taking away your livelihood and your ability to support your family emotionally, financially, and and spiritually.
And I also want to say, we're probably not speaking only on behalf of veterans here. Really, federal employees across the board and around the country. Anyone who has to pee in a cup, so your boss can judge the quality of your character by the content of your urine. Any one of those people can't access cannabis, and people want this, right? I've spoken to FBI agents, DEA agents, CIA agents. I have spoken to many veterans and people in active duty wearing the uniform. People are starting to make the consideration of access to medical cannabis for whether or not they continue their career that they have trained for and that they've dedicated their lives to, and that shouldn't be the case.
I had an extended conversation with a good friend, Nick Lowry. You might know him as a former chief, the 10th leading scorer in the history of the NFL, and the national spokesperson for Canalife, a CBD company, and his involvement with the NFL with CBD and then as they move forward in THC was staggering to me. That the NFL, with their similar symptom patterns as a combat medic, were so interested in CBD that they were changing their policies already to make CBD available to their players because of the neuroplasticity and the reduction in the severity of concussions and the amount of concussions that they were getting, they finally had something that allowed them to shoot ahead of the duck instead of behind the duck.
Yeah. I mean, it's so ironic. I mean, we're talking about these two, classes of people, right? Your NFL players, our Chiefs, man. Those are modern day gladiators.
Absolutely.
Right? Those are the guys that we pay money to go watch them crush their skulls together. The veterans, the military personnel, we are the modern day warrior, right? We are the one who goes out and does the bidding of the state, and protects the country. And so it's ironic that those two populations, which we elevate and really respect so much, but we prevent them from accessing something that is really obvious by this point in time, is not dangerous, is not addictive, as it says in the Controlled Substances Act, and is potentially life-saving, right? And can prevent the massive addictions that are taking place within our professional sports community and within the veteran community. So there's a huge way to talk about that. We got to get some athletes.
That's one of the things that's most staggering to me is the. I'm 51 years old, and my entire life the government's been shoving down my throat that marijuana is a gateway drug. But then, as you start looking at the research from other nations that have been studying this for decades, it turns out that marijuana is actually an exit drug. If you try to get off opioids cold turkey, you're about 4%. If you use cannabis in conjunction with a concerted effort to get off those opioids, you're about 54%.
Yeah.
So you're a coin flip of being successful versus virtually impossible.
Absolutely.
So if for no other reason, Veterans Administration, if you're listening, please help us in the addiction of our veterans to these drugs by allowing us to have access to cannabis. And if nothing else, at least research it and see if these other nations that have been doing this research for decades are right. Because we'd like to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at it from a cost perspective. If you want to make it into a fiscal thing, take, for example, a guy like me who gets out with multiple prescriptions, and now is on one prescription. And the cost savings within that. And so the only medicine that I'm taking is plant-based and legal. And the cool thing about it is that today, the cannabis that's available in these markets is tested. We know that it's free from mold, mildew, pesticides, heavy metals. We know exactly how much THC is in it, how much CBD is in it. We know, minor cannabinoids like cannabigerol and cannabinol. We know all of the terpenes, and we kind of know how this might affect a patient. So it's not as big of a guessing game as it was before. We can provide more specificity and precision to this medicine.
There's so much more we can learn. We're just like an iceberg. We have only seen the tip of what this medicine can do, and as we start isolating different properties of different strains of plants, we're going to be able to target different symptom profiles specifically, and I am extremely excited about it. Did you know there are two types of veteran that carry their title for life? Marines. You're a Marine for life. You're never a former Marine, you're ever an ex-Marine. And then Doc. If you're either a corpsman or a medic, you'll always be Doc. And as a combat medic, I still field phone calls from my troops that I served with about anything from their athlete's foot to their alcoholism and how they can save their marriage. And it is unbelievable and inconceivable that we don't have access to this medicine for these people that have given so much. I'll never forget it. I was in a store when I was little and I broke something, and my mother had me take out of my allowance the money it took to pay for it, and she said, "You broke it, you bought it." And I say to you, Veterans Administration, to all these veterans that have been wounded in combat and the wounds visible and invisible that they brought home, you broke it, you bought it. There is a better way to treat it than the way we're treating it right now. Let's give the VA psychiatrist and the VA psychologist another arrow in their quiver.
Yeah,
please.
Absolutely. And you mentioned alcohol. the most dangerous drug in the world. We'll have 100,000 Americans die of alcohol abuse this year. It's a huge issue within the military. Every phone call I got as a commander at 3 o'clock in the morning was never to tell me that one of my soldiers won Soldier of the Quarter. It was typically, Sergeant so-and-so beat up his wife, or, so-and-so wrapped his tree around a telephone, or wrapped his car around a telephone pole, and, come pick him up. What the one consistent thing that I continue here, and I've experienced this myself, is a massive reduction in alcohol consumption. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a major issue within the military that we should really consider in this conversation. And like I said, I don't want this to be the last time we have this conversation. I want to issue an official invitation of the Department of Defense or the VA or whoever wants to show that leadership to come out here or Zoom in and let's talk about this.
Absolutely.
And don't shy away from this. Part of my disclaimer is also you will not piss hot by watching a documentary or reading a book about cannabis or talking with a cannabis user. You will not piss hot, I promise you. So, if you're going to continue to drug test everyone, there's going to be an issue, though. So, look, I really want to cede the floor for a moment, and I want you to kind of set up a little bit, because it's a huge honor for me to sit with you today, knowing what you have survived and what you've been through. I would like you to set it up and kind of tell a little bit about your story, Chris, and how you came into this space.
Sure. My name's Sergeant Chris Wolfenbarger, retired, but the people that served with me know me as Specialist Wolfenbarger, or Doc. I was awarded the rank of sergeant the day I was medically retired from the military. So I spent every day that I was in the Missouri National Guard as a specialist. And for those of you that don't know military rank, that's one step up from a private. I graduated from Lee Summit High School in 1987. Central Missouri State, go Mules, in 91 and a half, because didn't get it done in 4 years. And then I became a certified real estate appraiser, and I did that for almost 2 decades before God put it on my heart to join the Missouri National Guard. I did basic training at 38 years old. I received Soldier of the Cycle during that iteration, mainly because they felt sorry for me because I was so old, I think. But I also did what they told me to do every time. Then I followed that directly up with Fort Sam Houston Combat Medic School. Came back here to the 205th Medical Unit in the Armory over by Arrowhead, and was giving a class to the 1141st Sapper Company. And their first sergeant or captain pulled me aside during that Combat Lifesavers course, which is essentially first aid for people that are going to get shot or blown up. And they said we could really use a mature, at this point almost 40-year-old medic in our E4 slot. We're getting ready to go hunt IEDs in Afghanistan. We're going to go do the most dangerous job in the world in the most dangerous place in the world, and we want you to volunteer to come with us. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get out of this. I'm a newlywed. I have to ask my wife. So she said, you have to send home a check, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, put in your paperwork. Because she had 3 kids when we got married, and having 2 parents was new to them, and it was difficult. So I put in my paperwork, and I deployed to Afghanistan with the 1141st Sapper Company of the Missouri National Guard, deployed under the 101st Airborne. And I am proud to say that just months ago received a Presidential Unit Citation, which is a huge honor for a National Guard unit to receive. That ribbon will go on our guidon. If you don't know what guidon is, when you picture a unit in formation, that guy standing in front with the flag with the unit symbol on it, the streamers on there are, we'll have one of those Presidential Unit Citations for that. The 1141st Sapper Company, in the year we were deployed in 2009 and 10, cleared more kilometers of route in Afghanistan than any other unit before or after. We found more IEDs than any other unit before or after, and our fine-to-debt rate was higher than any other unit before or after. And I am extremely proud of our leadership and the professionalism with which we conducted our mission to keep the peoples of Afghanistan safe in our area of operation. I couldn't be prouder. However, we also received another ribbon that will forever live on our guidon, and that's a combat action ribbon. And that means that over 85% of the soldiers in the 1141st received one of two combat-related awards. They received a combat action badge, meaning that they were directly in contact with the enemy, be it direct or IED, or the medics received combat medic badges for treating wounded soldiers or civilians while in contact with the enemy. I received a Purple Heart during that deployment. Was blown up by a suicide-borne a vehicle-borne suicide bomber, and that was a tough day for everybody in the company. But the accolade that I'm most proud of is my combat medic badge, and the fact that my soldiers still call me Doc, and all of that history and all of that was God preparing me for what he really had planned for my life, and that was to help veterans post-service. Mm-hmm. Initially, I was on the board of directors for the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors. Did that for 8 years, and I'm unbelievably proud of their efforts. Please check them out, the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors, the few, exceptionalwarriors.org. You can go check them out. I'm still on their advisory board. Mm-hmm. We're doing amazing things for veterans because the VA can only help you while you're there. Mm-hmm. So we put them into the field. We put their families into the field, doing outdoor recreational activities from hunting and fishing. We have a scuba diving program. We have guys that are in our parachuting program. Mm-hmm. They get to parachute with the Black Knights, which are the Army competition. They're doing great work. But one of the things that I had to do in my duties with the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors was send out a packing list. You never do anything, if you don't know this and you're a civilian, you never do anything in the military without a sergeant handing you a packing list. And woe be the troop that doesn't have everything on that packing list. And we implemented that early on with the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors because guys would forget stuff. And the number one thing on the list is meds. Don't forget to bring your meds. And every soldier, every airman, every Marine, every seaman, everyone from the Coast Guard always had not just a couple of bottles, they had the weekly case.
Yeah, sounds like carrying Tic Tacs
around. Box, Tic Tac box, right? Yeah. And I thought there's got to be a better way. The fact that was a universal situation was stunning to me. It was staggering to me. And then I started talking to the guys that we'd have on events. How many meds are you on? How many meds are you on? And on the average, most veterans that served in combat and were wounded, or served in combat and maybe they weren't wounded, but because of the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors really targets elite Rangers, Special Forces. The amount of medications that these warriors were on was staggering. And that was when I realized we're going to have to make a change. I need to make a change. I work full-time still, and I'm a certified real estate appraiser, and I only have so much time with which I can dedicate my philanthropic efforts. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to start the Veteran Patient Access Foundation, the VPA. I'm the founder of the VPA, and what we do is we provide medical recommendations for veterans and first responders to see if a doctor thinks cannabis might be able to help them and might work for them. And we have been unbelievably blessed. We're just starting up, and Elevate Holistics already has donated 100 veteran recommendation visits. And if you'd like to learn more about getting one of those, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, Chris Wolfenbarger, and we'll get you on track for that. I also would encourage you to take advantage if you're curious about whether medical cannabis could be right for you. That CannaCare nurse consultation that Clay talked about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is You can't get in trouble by getting educated. So I highly recommend you take advantage of that. Just to fill out the rest of my background, I'm also an active board member for the Hickory Hills Veterans Lodge, which is up in Greene, Missouri, and I am a proud active member of the Missouri Cannabis Project. Now that this plant is legal in this state, there's no reason for the people that have been incarcerated for this plant to still be behind bars and caged like animals. And the Missouri Cannabis Project is doing a phenomenal job of getting these people out and getting them back to their families. But when it's all said and done, the reason why I do what I do and the reason why I am who I am is, and I'm talking to you, Veterans Administration, I am sick and tired of burying veterans. I'm just tired of it. Right now in America, if 22 people a day died from taking baths, you wouldn't be able. They wouldn't sell another bathtub. You'd only be able to take a shower, right? Yeah. If tricycles were killing infants, we wouldn't be able to have tricycles. 22 a day is such a number that we're not even losing that many at war.
Yeah, it's a crisis, and it's a leadership crisis. It's a failure of leadership to not address it, and it would be a dereliction of duty, in my view, if the U.S. government and the DoD specifically were not actively seeking opportunities to conduct this research. We can do it right here in the state of Missouri. We can do it across the country. We can make it as big as we want, as small as you want. We have academic institutions lined up to do this. They're all just the academic institutions. I mean, I've spoken to Mizzou and Missouri Western State University.
They're all
K-State.
chomping at the bit.
They're chomping at the bit, but they're terrified because they get so much federal funding, and they're concerned about the Schedule I status of cannabis, which prevents real research to be conducted. Thankfully, hemp is now legal in the United States, and we're already doing our first active research on post-harvest freshness of hemp products with K-State right now, which is led, by the way, by the 15th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Richard Myers, by the way. So, so farmers are getting back into it, right? That we lost this art. The hemp plant, the fiber of this plant runs through the history of our nation. All the good stuff and all the bad stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think we can bring it back around because it's been an absolute disaster, the prohibition of cannabis. And I think the re-legalization of cannabis is what's going to be seen as a true paradigm shift, right? The impacts of that are going to be positive in terms of social justice, right?
Let me ask you a question, Todd.
Yeah.
How many states have some form of legal cannabis right now?
37 have medical, 15 now have adult use.
Okay.
In 49 states, hemp is totally legal. Idaho, as a fact, is the last state where a hemp leaf will get you a free ride in a cop car.
So back to the cannabis, THC bearing cannabis. 37?
Yeah.
37 states are in open rebellion with the United States federal government.
Math.
Okay. I'll do the math for the West Point graduate. 37 states, that's more than half, are in open rebellion with the U.S. government because the U.S. government refuses to reschedule marijuana from Schedule I to a researchable Schedule II status.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know what Schedule I is, it's addictive and it has no medical benefit. But 37 states of our union say something completely opposite of that. I don't understand.
And we've still had zero deaths from cannabis overdose. It's just impossible to do so. I mean, you might wake up and you've dominated a bag of Funyuns or something, but
that's right.
But bottom line, you're not going to overdose and die from cannabis unless it's a polypharmaceutical type of situation with a bunch of alcohol and other drugs.
The most powerful seminar I've ever been to, George Biswell was with me actually in this one. At the University of Boulder, Colorado, or in Pueblo, they had in Pueblo, Colorado, they had an international cannabis institute conference. And I needed a break from all the hard science that I didn't understand. So I went to a seminar called bud tender stories. For those of you who don't know what a bud tender is, it's like a bartender, but it's in a place that sells cannabis. And I thought this would be funny, but instead it was actually a study where they had people that had overused cannabis, and they played their 911 calls, and then they interviewed them 10 days later about how they overused. And it was always an edible that had been consumed incorrectly, and that created a change in packaging where they nipped that problem in the bud.
Yeah.
And then they had the same situation with opioid overdoses, and somebody asked, why didn't you play the 911 calls? And they said, out of respect for the family.
Yeah, because they didn't make it.
And they said, what do you mean out of respect for the family? And the researcher said, well, all those people were dead. We thought it was in poor taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that moment was so crystalline and powerful in my mind. These people had taken 10 to 20 times the recommended dosage of the edible that they had eaten and had lived to tell the tale. And none of the opioid overdoses survived.
It's a transition, and it takes time, and it takes education.
It was so
takes
powerful.
An open mind, and it takes good quality product, which we'll be now producing here in Missouri. So it's just a shame that we're not. And I want to give time to our guests.
Yes.
Tonight.
Our
this
amazing guests tonight.
This is why we need more time. Because we've seen that the re-legalization of cannabis is a true paradigm shift, multiple impacts. One of those, one really important one, especially as we find ourselves in this kind of inflection point in history, this really unique moment, is on the social justice side. Right? And social equity within the cannabis industry. And that's one of the main things that we focus on with my company, Harvest 360. I would like to bring to the fore David Serrano, my business partner, my good friend, Navy veteran. We both we found each other as we were working to get post-traumatic stress disorder put on the list of qualifying conditions in the state of Colorado, which was successful in the end, and our values aligned, our vision for what could happen with cannabis aligned, and we started this company together, and I'm always so happy to spend time with him as veterans as well. So David, welcome to the show. How are you? David's calling in from New York, by the way.
I'm doing well. It's great to see you guys. Chris, your story is always so inspiring, and you're a certified hero, man. And Todd, it's good to see you, brother. I'm listening in. This is such a great conversation, and hopefully I could add something to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, maybe we could talk a little bit about like employment opportunities in the industry is also another thing that we speak to very often. I can't tell you how many veterans I speak to on a daily basis who say, I see this thing is blowing up, it looks really interesting, I'm very passionate about this, how do I get into it? Well, there are some pitfalls in being involved in this cannabis industry. And David experienced one very recently with the VA, and I was wondering if you might share a bit about that story.
Absolutely. So, the federal government, they want to stay hands off of cannabis as much as possible. Everyone knows that. One of the things that the federal government likes to do is deny veterans their right to their benefits when they're interacting with the cannabis plant. And what we found, we didn't expect it. We thought that we were in the clear. Earlier this year, I had submitted for my VA home loan guarantee, and the VA, my bank approved it. Everybody was, the credit check, income from Harvest 360. Thankfully, it checked. 3 good years of it, and the VA came back to me and said, we're gonna deny your certificate of eligibility because you've been earning income from Harvest 360. And my first reaction I pinched my hands. I was just like so nervous. I have to tell my family this. We're in the middle of this transition, and we worked really hard for this opportunity. The house that I'm at right now is located in upstate New York. We're on a farm, which was our dream, and we had to overcome this, and we did. And I'll share, briefly, if you don't mind, how I did that. Todd, can I do that?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So we basically first Doug Distasso from the Veterans Cannabis Project. That guy's a beast. He called up. Todd called him up, got him on the line. We called Chris, because Chris has experience with the VA and some insights, 20 years of it, and we were like, okay, so we're getting all the insights, and what we found was that the VA, they don't want to interact. They don't want to support plant-touching companies, operations. And there's a designation for this. It's called IRS Tax Rule 280E. So if you're touching the plant, you're going to be under this 280E concept, under this 280E rule. We're not, as a consulting firm, we don't touch the plant. So we needed to figure out a way to get the VA to recognize that my company isn't required to follow Rule 280E, which is basically you don't get any of the standard deductions because you're touching the plant. So we went through Senator Gillibrand in New York. She coordinated a congressional inquiry and submitted to them my story, which is that, I've been operating for a company that operates in the industry. However, my company wasn't subjected to E80E. Therefore, their rule about not approving my loan is just kind of obsolete. And within 2 weeks, we had an overturning decision. What was interesting is, they hadn't approved anyone else before that. They approved hemp operators, but they were trying to stay away from this as much as possible. And I think what we unlocked was, giving them a more specific target of where to stay away, and just using their own rules. We said, hey, 280. But what that did, you have 300,000 employees in the industry, and only a third of those employees actually touch the plant. And I think there was a rate, maybe like 1 or 2% of the industry was made up of veterans. So we're talking several hundred, maybe a few thousand veterans that work in the segment of the industry that doesn't touch the plant, that previously wouldn't have had access to a VA benefit that now should be able to have access to that. And if you don't, you can reach out to us at Harvest 360 and we'll tell you exactly, we'll give you the playbook. We're not going to take no for an answer to something that we earned and is our right.
Absolutely.
Right now, this is an essential industry, and we're taking care of patients.
You earned it, brother. We all did.
And IRA is just not going to happen. And I think it took all of the right brains in the room to figure out a strategy to work with the VA and not against them. Use the rules that the federal government has established and see that as a possibility. And finally, they approved me, and my wife and I moved into our farm home in July and are enjoying this. And I'm really appreciative of the Veteran Cannabis Project, who helped us with that strategy, to you, Chris and Todd, for that support.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful thing to watch. I'm really proud of that. David, I wanted to get into the social justice side, but we're running a little bit late. And what I'm hoping is that we can expand this conversation over the next few months and the next few years. I think that we have enough content and connectivity within this industry. I would love to bring, we could do an entire episode on social justice and social equity within the industry. And of course, we put out a lot of stuff on that, and we do a lot of activities. We're doing stuff in Illinois right now with Senator Ford. and doing the Cannabis Industrial Marketplace Board panel discussion on that very soon. So, David, thank you for the time tonight. Enjoy the farm. I know you farmers have to go to bed early to get up and feed the goats tomorrow. So thank you for joining us, brother. It was really an honor, and I hope you had a wonderful Veterans Day yesterday.
Woo-hoo! And thank you for fighting.
Thank you.
Thank you for fighting for that benefit. That benefit will translate to several veterans now that the VA has made a policy shift.
Yep, absolutely. Truly set the example. So our next guest tonight is Colonel Retired Dr. Philip Blair. Dr. Philip Blair is a 1972 graduate of West Point. He is the chief medical advisor at Harvest 360. He's a personal friend and just an incredible force to be reckoned with, and a wonderful medical mind. And sir, welcome to the show. Really happy to have you. Where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm in Castle Rock, Washington.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir. It's really great. Wanted to jump right into it. I was wondering if you can kind of give us a little bit of an overview of your military career, and then talk about what drew you to cannabis as a medicine.
Great, Todd. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight and speaking to the veterans that are in the audience as well. Now, I came in a peculiar way, a military academy graduate. I was in the field artillery, decided that rather than killing people, I wanted to heal people. So I moved over into medicine, became a family physician, and practiced in the military, ending up at the chief of primary care at the Irwin Army Hospital in Kansas. And from there, I moved into a disease management role. And while I was working in disease management role, I was a vice president of a company that was targeted there. We were working on people with chronic kidney disease. And I found that the standards were not being followed, that we were not, the medical profession was not really doing everything it could, and that getting back to basics and fundamentals, including protocols and even diet measures, were of great assistance for these individuals in preventing different types of problems. I continued on the disease management area, but I recognized that there was something missing, that we were not providing a comprehensive care for the people that were in our charge in the field of medicine. And about 6 years ago, in 2014, I learned about cannabis. And I frankly, I have to admit that I was helped to prosecute soldiers who had been using cannabis and doing part of the testing. And then later workers who were doing the testing. I was a review officer. And I did not realize the benefits that came from cannabis. I started exploring the topic and learning about it. And I had the opportunity to enter into the practice of using cannabinoids. And I was absolutely blown away. And that, in terms of the progress and the benefits that come from using cannabis. And so for the last 6 years, I've really dedicated myself to looking at how we can use cannabis and does it apply to these number of different illnesses and problems, and how could it be incorporated in the practice of medicine in a very fruitful way. And Chris spoke to a little bit of this, and at the core of this is this endocannabinoid system, which may be the real heartbeat of the physiology that we encounter. And this system is so primed. You can think of it a little bit like the software that makes our body run, whether it's sensing things coming in from the outside or sensing things that are coming from the inside, putting those together and putting an action potential to make that happen. And a lot of this is regulated and modified by this particular system, and we can make changes in the system in a benevolent way using cannabis. And that was my realization, and I recognized, and I essentially said, I see the whole potential for cannabis in dealing with family members, soldiers across the board.
Absolutely. Sir, I'm so glad that you mentioned family members. I think that cannabis medicine will have a specific impact on family life. It's really the families that also bear the brunt of a lot of issues, post-traumatic stress and addiction, especially, and alcohol abuse.
Absolutely.
I know that cannabis has made me a better father and husband and person in general. I think that could be replicated. We kind of find ourselves in this inflection point in history, and that includes a global pandemic, right? And so I think that, what are your thoughts on cannabis and COVID, and what are your thoughts on the DoD and its potential participation in cannabis research?
Todd, I think you're exactly right. We're facing some unprecedented health threats, actually from all the way from the beginning to recruits and to veterans, those who are on active duty as those who have finished active duty. And it involves not only the soldiers but their families. And what we have is a potential with cannabis in order to address any of those problems. Now, I'm not saying that cannabis is the solution for all of these, but instead of the tic-tac box of medicines that people are carrying in a suitcase around with them, they could eliminate well over half those medications and reduce the amount that they were having to take and make them work better by using cannabis in addition to those particular therapies. And I say recruit because we are looking at an epidemic of obesity and diabetes that's going across the country. So many of the recruits that we have to join the military are actually not qualified and getting to a smaller and smaller group that actually does qualify. And then for the active duty veterans or the active duty soldiers, what they're facing is a modern warfare situation that has a huge amount of traumatic brain injury.
Absolutely.
Touches and blast injuries. We're faced with toxins that we didn't realize. An example is the Gulf War syndrome that we recognize now is some of the isostigmine that we used to prevent neurotoxin that was thought to be present actually has produced a number of epigenetic changes in our bodies and made us susceptible to some major chronic diseases. And then, of course, now with COVID, we're facing this viral threat. And I don't know that we ever realized how serious this threat could be and what an impact it has on military readiness. All of these things really focus on much of the paramount urgency with which we address many of these problems. And then we've got veterans and who have perhaps been injured and active duty have been injured. How can we facilitate their recovery? The pharmaceutical approach to many of these illnesses and the recovery and resilience, I think, in my determination, has been a disaster and a failure. That the use of drugs and has led to moral problems in many cases. Example is the opioid crisis, and the failure of these therapies to be fully effective for something as common as post-traumatic stress disorder. And so that, to me, means that we need to take a vigorous approach at all the available tools. And frankly, cannabis may offer us one of the master devices and mechanisms that we can make major changes, reduce threats, and prevent illness and prevent complications, saving huge amount of dollars and saving huge numbers of lives.
Yeah, it sounds like we're talking about great promise in terms of a prophylaxis, right? I mean, it's Dr. Blair is one of the co-inventors of the Athena Protocol. That's our strategy to mitigate and treat traumatic brain injury, and using this plant as a prophylaxis in a non-impairing format. We really hope to get to the point. We believe we've set the conditions here in Missouri and in the United States in general to research such a thing, and we hope to get the opportunity to do that.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
Dr. Blair, I've got a question. As a medic who has an entire company of troops that all have TBIs and PTSD, which also have concentric circle symptom profiles. To my knowledge, almost every single medication that my troops have been prescribed by the VA for suicidal ideation have suicidal ideation as a potential side effect. Is that accurate?
Well, I can't say on all of them, but a number of the medications do have them. And our learning about antidepressants is that they do have that adverse effect, and that they can potentiate suicide. It's very much of a problem. In fact, many of the psychiatric drugs have long-term adverse consequences that have not been adequately addressed.
Absolutely. Sir, we could talk to you all night. I wish that we could. And, just another reason that we need to do this again and again. And, hopefully the industry will kind of help us move this along, and we can do this on a regular basis. I would love to have you on.
Let me just say one more thing, and that has to do with what you talked about as prophylaxis. Using cannabinoids can enhance the performance of our soldiers and protect them from injuries when they occur. And then using it at time of injury, which is part of that Athena protocol that we're really pushing for, is to deliver those cannabinoids at the time of injury, because there's clear evidence that ischemic or limiting the blood supply or the blood flow injuries that occur can be mitigated in stroke and heart attack and any organ systems that it comes in contact with. And then you've got the recovery phase, for which cannabinoids can be extraordinary in healing wounds and facilitating the mental as well as the physical recovery. So I think it's paramount that the military be involved in this, because in warfare, the cannabinoids would have some of their highest value. So I just wanted to get that point across.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Blair. It's really a pleasure to have you tonight. And again, we'll do this another time. So thank you very much, sir. Absolutely.
Can you guys tell them who's coming up next, and then I'll take us to commercial?
Absolutely. Okay, so after the commercial break, we will have with us Major General retired Tod Bunting, former Adjutant General of the Kansas National Guard, and now the president of SaveFarm.org. So we're looking forward to that.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. No, thanks so much, guys. Hey, we have so much stuff to cover tonight. I'm gonna be real brief, but wow, it's just cool. It's amazing watching all this happen and unfold here live in the studio. Some amazing content, some amazing players, some guys that have sacrificed their lives to for all of us to have the liberties that we have, and they're talking about how cannabis can help all of them, all of us. It's amazing. So you heard that. We'll be right back here shortly. Once again, if you have any veterans, friends, or family, tag them. We're giving away some free certifications. We're giving away some free medicine from Fresh Green Dispensary here in Lee Summit, Missouri. So let's take a quick break. We're going to go check in with the Cannon Convict Project with them. We're also going to show a little video earlier whenever Chris Wolfenbarger was giving you his life story. He had mentioned that he was involved in an IED attack, and we actually have video of that attack. So we're going to check in with the Cannon Convict Project, a quick commercial after that, and then we'll show you some video of that experience that we actually have of his IED attack, and then we'll come back in. We'll continue the conversation. Stand by, tag a vet friend, and we'll see you guys here shortly.
Hey guys, what's up? Chris and Christine with the Cannon Convict Project. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Big shout out to the veterans on tonight, Todd Scattini and Chris Wolfenbarger. Great to see you guys.
I'm sure they're giving you a lot of great information during their set, so I hope you guys are interacting a lot with them and getting a lot of great content provided to you. We have a couple updates for you, and they're going to be pretty quick tonight. First off, we want to give a shout out to Joni last week. You did an amazing job. We were so proud of you sitting there defending patient rights, giving a lot of great information. She's a wonderful source and a wealth of knowledge, so good job, Joni.
You did awesome.
We want to talk about some of the training. Joni had mentioned some last week that she was working on. We're all working in collaboration here on some training materials. We're working with Taproot AG, Harvest 360, We've got Tim and Joni from our board. Chris Wolfenbarger is adding a lot of content to our training material as well. So if you guys have any content that you have been seeing in such seminars that you think could be expressed more clearly, please let us know that. Something that isn't being communicated at all or very well, please let us know that from what you've seen in other sessions. That way we can build upon that and improve, so we can have, you know, provided for the community the best materials that we possibly can. Also, the Evolution is going to team up with us in this, and I want to send out to you guys the opportunity to potentially help us with donations. Well, there's going to be pamphlets and training material that we'll need to provide at these sessions. So if anyone wants to sponsor that, please let us know. Reach out to us, reach out to any of the people that we just listed. And we want to provide these to everyone for free. We don't want to charge, so that it's accessible to everybody. So let us know if you want to sponsor.
Education is a huge thing that is lacking right now across the state, whether it be with patients or with the courts, with the police, with just a number of people, even some of the doctors and stuff that's going on out there. There's a lot of misinformation going around, and we really need to set all that stuff straight and really make sure we're doing this responsibly. So help us out if you can.
We also want to talk about real quick, just reminding you that it is coming into the holiday season, so our POWs are really lonely right now. So if you want to send them a Christmas card or put money on their commissary books, please reach out to us. I am putting in the Evolution magazine an article for December with each of their pictures and contact information and ways in which you can do that. It is kind of complicated and intimidating to put money on their books, so just feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you with that process.
Please understand how important it is. I mean, these people are sitting in jail. They don't have contact really with anybody, so a simple Christmas card or anything like that, just reaching out to them is really going to make their day.
So that's about all we have for you today, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Chris, Todd, knock 'em dead. We love you.
Happy Veterans Day.
Bye, guys.
Previously on the Evolution Magazine's Home Grow series.
We're here at Happy Rock Farms shooting live on Main Street in Kansas City, and tonight we have the largest studio audience here that we've ever had before. Can I get a little applause from the audience out there?
You just shake it out. And then you take it using your Happy Rock Farms business card.
Wow, they're looking great. The next day they're looking not so great. And you're going, we haven't been spending enough quality time together, have we, dear?
When you go to actually extract the trichomes off the plant, you're going to use a specific micron screen. And that screen is going to allow the best and the most sought after trichome off the plant.
And I'm going to sign it live for all of you. I'll lean down the computer. I'll make sure I'm stuck. Like, this is the type of signing statement we need more of, all right?
What you're going to want to get is obviously some plant material. Industrial hemp is what we have here.
That's going to be like 5 plants in one seed, I'm pretty sure.
That's how easy it is to make tea.
Hold on a second.
Okay, I'm getting excited. Rally towel, rally towel. I'll bring your game.
Bring your game, because we got the A++ game here in Kansas City, so. Hey guys, welcome back. We had a surprise visit from George Hanna. George Hanna is a veteran from the Kansas Normal Group. He's going to say a few words about the importance of how we need to all support our Kansas legislation right now to help push the cannabis reform there. So let me introduce George here.
I appreciate you letting me crash the party here. With all of the veterans going on, I couldn't miss this opportunity to come over here. I myself just an enlisted, but so I know I'm in tall cotton here. But as a disabled vet that's been fighting the VA since 1992, I can certainly speak and attest to a lot of the struggles that I have. I'm on a pain management program and have been since 1992, so I get tested every 6 months. But what I really wanted to come here for is put out a call to action. I'm the executive director for Kansas Normal. As of right now, I believe, I need to check my stats, there's only one state that's passed cannabis legislatively, and that's our struggle in Kansas. Everything else has been ballot initiative, and the people have spoken. Unfortunately, in Kansas, we have to take it a step further. So I desperately need all of the listeners to go to kansasnormal.com. Look at the stories that we've got up there. There's a donation link in there. Get involved. If you're on the Kansas side, come to us. We're actively lobbying the Capitol as we speak. I appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to the show. I know you're running late. Thank you.
Yes, these are our not only our neighbors. It's like they're our community because Kansas City. We're right. Kansas City's Kansas and Missouri, right? Anybody from freaking Maine thinks Kansas City is Kansas, but Kansas City is Kansas and Missouri because we're a community, a big city right on the border, and we got to support our neighbors here. Okay, so go to Kansas Normal's website. I imagine you have a website, right? kansasnormal.com. Support them. Lisa, there's another group called the Kansas Bleeding Kansas Advocates. Lisa, I can't remember. Sublette. Lisa Sublette. She is one of our writers for our magazine. She talks about what's going on the Kansas side. Let's support our neighbors, give them some support, and let's make sure that they have the rights and freedoms that we have here right across the border. A stone throw away. Thanks, George, for joining us tonight. Yeah, we're gonna take one. We're gonna take one more quick video break. As I mentioned earlier, during Chris Wolfenbarger's personal testimony, he talked about his experience in the military where he had an IED attack. So we're gonna show that video, and then these guys are gonna continue the show here. Let's pitch that video up on the screen.
ومن الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله والله رؤوف بالعباد.
If that video upset any of you out there, I'm sorry about that. We just wanted to give you a firsthand view of what our American veterans are dealing with, and then they have to bring that home. My VA therapist told me a long time ago when that video surfaced, they're using it for what they want to use it for, Chris, so you use it for what you want to use it for. One thing I want to clarify about Kansas Normal. NORML stands for the National Organization of Reformation of Marijuana Laws. So it's not normal as you would normally spell it. It's NORML. So if you want to get to them, it's Kansas, is it dot? Or is it just Kansas Normal?
KansasNormal.com.
KansasNormal, NORML.org.
.com.
.com, sorry. NORML. I know a lot of us, we just take it for granted because we're so deep in the industry that everybody in the world that might be watching knows. But in reality, I think we're reaching a lot of new people today.
Absolutely. NORML is the nation's oldest marijuana legalization organization, started in 1970, the exact same year that the war on drugs started. And so it's really a pleasure to have them here. That was the first group that I joined. Even when I was in the military, I was in NORML. I asked the JAG officer if I could join, and they said yes. This is a very bipartisan issue. One thing, message for legislators out there is all of the smart politicians are starting to recognize that cannabis is way more popular than they are. And so many politicians today are overestimating the level of acceptance for cannabis among their constituents. So it's pretty interesting to watch Kansas. And so speaking of Kansas, I'm very proud to introduce U.S. Air Force Major General retired Tod Bunting, the former Adjutant General of the Kansas National Guard. That's the highest ranking military officer in a state National Guard, working directly on behalf of the state. General Bunting, welcome, sir. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
And good to see you guys. Good program. I've enjoyed listening in. So,
sure, thank you.
I see a good road ahead for us.
Absolutely, sir. We love having leaders in the circle here and having this conversation. We think it's incredibly important that flag officers and senior enlisted personnel really join in this conversation, because this is a question of leadership, right? So I'm sure you've had some experience, even while in uniform with cannabis, probably on the punishment side and the disciplinary side. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about first your career and some of your experiences within the military with all drugs, to include alcohol and other pharmaceutical abuse and cannabis.
Sure. Well, I spent a number of years in, you mentioned some of your stories with the troops, so there's no doubt I've seen the challenges people have when their life gets a little out of control. So I spent most of my career was in counter. And that comes under the Adjutant General in Kansas, but I spent time in that in the operations side years ago when I was at a different level of the Guard. Been all over Central and South America, so I thought it was an interesting fact, and a lot of my friends now are veterans or in law enforcement. Some of the biggest advocates for medical marijuana in particular are former law enforcement, so sometimes we get together and commiserate about the fact that nobody likes to lose, but we probably didn't exactly win the war on drugs. So I spent most of my life as counter drug, and now I'm only counter drug for the bad ones. And so I am an advocate, and I do believe that the value of cannabis is getting more proven every day. But I thought it was interesting that now I'm all of a sudden an advocate. 15 years ago, I would have been that guy that was probably taking stripes off people or whatever else for the problems with substance abuse. I've said this before, and I know Chris has heard this. I weigh in on this because the situation in America today between the opioid crisis and veteran suicide is unacceptable. And I believe we will be judged by our action or lack of action. I've said that publicly, and so I am now fully engaged to the extent I have the time, and I'll do everything I can. I'm primarily an advocate of trusting people who trust us. So these veterans and others in particular that serve, I believe that you let adults do adult things until such a time as they prove they can't do that. So I'm a big freedom guy, and those of us that served are probably in many ways more liberal in that respect about people's freedom than others might think. So, one of the things, for example, I ride motorcycles. I know the rich, but I will ride motorcycles for a lot, because that's my release. So I believe that we need to look at the research and trust the science and trust the people that are out there today. And I've seen firsthand what marijuana can do, cannabis, and of course the other side of the coin, the same thing with hemp. I believe, and Todd, you and I have talked, has unlimited potential. And one of the things that I do now is I am on the state farm, which is a veteran training farm. And we started with bees, which were a form of therapy, but now we're training people to farm. And the potential of hemp as a way to give veterans something meaningful to do is a sidelight that I'd like to see an entire show devoted to. But my experience is life is hard. And once you have experienced any kind of significant trauma in your life, be it what Chris went through or anybody who serves, and the nature of war is horrific. In Kansas, the Adjutant General is also charged with emergency management, homeland security. So I've been to every kind of natural disaster you can imagine. I've seen the trauma that Mother Nature can inflict. And sometimes people have difficulty dealing with just how beautiful Mother Nature can be, and then she can turn and be horrific. And my lesson from that, though, is that once you've experienced that, you might have an edge or something in your life that occasionally is probably that you need a little help with. And I believe that that's where one of the proven things of cannabis is that properly utilized and monitored, done the right way, when you have those days in your life when that edge is sharper than it maybe you can handle, it can be an incredible tool for you. I'm an Air Force officer. My military nickname was Toolbox. I won't bore you with the whole story, but I still, to this day, I'm looking for that tool. The doctor mentioned it too. I believe that cannabis and marijuana is a tool that we have long ignored and misunderstood. It needs to be brought to bear. When I talk about trauma, I think it's interesting and sad that when you look at the opioid crisis, at least from my perspective, a major element of that, of what leads to the opioid crisis, is people that have experienced something that caused them unbearable pain. And so the drug that was used to get them through that, which was primarily used, I think, in the early days for automobile accidents, turned into something that too quickly became an addiction, and then that element of it became where people died. And so it became a crisis, even though the drugs that are a crisis have been around for a long time, their mismanagement was what caused the crisis, and unmitigated greed as well. But it all came about from trying to handle pain. So those of us in uniform owe an obligation to those that have experienced more than we have to do all you can for them. And Todd, you were with me, and so you can testify to this. I have stood up in front of Senator Moran, Secretary of the VA, and asked for research. That's again my primary advocacy tonight. I know we're short on time. We have to do the research. We have to trust the science. Get all the wives' tales and the urban legend aside and look at real life cases. I've seen it firsthand that some of our soldiers have many issues, and alcohol has been a problem. And then some of them, and who knows where this will go, but some of them end up, passing away. And sometimes I've seen where they were in chronic pain. And so I would just say this as a segue. I believe the single most significant thing that has led to the advocacy for medical marijuana, which will then open the door for it to be used for so many other things, has been chronic pain management and end of life, quality of life. And so my life has been abundantly blessed. And so I cannot but do everything I can now to do what we can for veterans and their families, to give them every opportunity to have as good a life as they can have. And so if this drug, which is embarrassing to me, or this product, I should say, in Kansas, is, I'm not proud to be one of only 7 states with nothing, and we're going to do all we can. And good on Missouri, or the miracle in South Dakota, went from being like Kansas to both at one time. But you take it one bite at a time. I am an advocate primarily, again, for the research. If I had a hero in my life, one of them would have been Sergeant Friday on Dragnet, which is just the facts, man. And I believe the facts will bear it out.
Amen.
I'm still, again, spending my life in Canada. It amazes me today when I talk to people. People are amazed that marijuana is still federally. Chris talked about the 37 rebel states in contract for good. It's still a Schedule I drug. I mean, cocaine is a Schedule II drug. Yeah. And you go, come on, Todd, you must have read it wrong. No, I didn't read that wrong. It's still Schedule I. I don't know what number it should be, but it's a number way less than 1. And as you guys all know, that changes everything as far as the limitations. When we asked the Secretary of the VA about it, and Todd asked this question, we got the standard answer, which is that's Schedule I. That's what a lot of people are eyes on. So the first thing we got to do, and this is at the federal level, we've got to change that. And then in Kansas, we have other work to do. But I believe there are a lot of people that are taking the easier road out and say, it's Schedule I, so you know how that is. Well, then we'll fix that for you, and we're going to keep coming back over and over again until we understand that there's an obligation that we have to make things better for people. There is clear evidence, more needs to be gathered, that this can make a difference in the quality of their life. Just one last story. I met Chris Wolfenbarger with our shared passion for the outdoors. And he knows from an organization that I'm part of, this is not a pitch for them, called Heroes Among Us. We exist to help families in their time of crisis. But I met Chris when we were doing things outdoors, hunting and fishing, and he has this great organization, Feud. At its core, all that organization is to help people through the edge or the rough part of their life. And it was started by somebody who has no military experience that used to be on full ride all the time and said, I think I need to do something. I think I've not been a big fan of the term to give something back. I need to do something. I need to help people that are not as fortunate as me. So that played forward, I'm convinced that medical marijuana, and as it goes further for some people, we have removed one of the single best tools that anybody could ever have to help manage the parts of life that are the hardest, and maybe even improve the quality of life each and every day. So again, I'll start with, and I'll end this way. We will be judged by our action or lack of inaction. And I'm going to certainly be one of those people that's not going to sit there and say, I wish I should have or could have. We're in this fight, and I'm proud to be part of the team that you have gathered here to go forward and do everything we can for those that can't help themselves.
Thank you very much, General.
Thank you so much,
Thank
General.
you, sir. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your commitment to the veterans, to their families, and to the military personnel when you served, and to the state of Kansas. And we're certainly proud to have your voice in this conversation, and we hope to encourage more of your contemporaries to join us in this conversation and have a real discussion, because we think that we have set the conditions for research. We are in the show me state here. And like I said, we have the best medical cannabis program in the country. Everyone is asking for research. Well, here it is. Let's do it. And sir, we're certainly proud to have you on the show, and hope to do it again, maybe next time in person.
You know, General, you gave me some phenomenal advice when my shoulder and my back were really giving me more trouble than I could handle, and the VA had denied my request for a chiropractic. And you said, Chris, here's what you're going to do. You're going to ask again, and then you're going to write a letter to your senator, and you're going to CC me on it. And for those of you that don't know, when a general says CC me on it, he means I want to make sure you do it. And don't take no for an answer. Soldiers at the VA are kind of like a Roomba. They bump into the wall and they turn around the other direction and they just find out a different solution. And that worked for me. And then we heard David Serrano's story earlier tonight, where the VA had told him no. He CC'd a senator. He didn't take no for an answer. And sir, I commend you on stepping forward right now, not taking no for an answer on this issue, and for continuing to press forward on this fight. And I'm honored to be on the team as you press forward with this. Thank you so much for stepping forward.
Thanks for your leadership, sir.
And thanks for the honey.
Glad to know each and every one of you guys, and look forward to making some progress, especially here in Kansas, as you might imagine. But I wish you all the best in Missouri, and I know you guys are going to continue to make a difference in people's lives. And at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot more important thing for you to do than that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I think the exact response from the Secretary of the VA when we posed this question of why we're not doing research and this and that was beyond just Schedule 1. He said, so uninformed of, the cannabis that's being used today it could have killed rock stars, and it could have killed Jimi Hendrix, and all of this stuff. And it's just so uninformed and uneducated on the subject.
I'm going to quote the general so many times. I do already, and as I've been blessed to have him in my life. Just the facts.
Yeah.
I will be quoting you on that, General, over and over again. Hey, let's just stick to the facts. Let's find out what the facts are. Let's make it researchable. Find out what the facts are, and then stick with the facts. And I think once the facts come to light, then all the things that we've learned anecdotally are going to be borne out to be fact.
Absolutely. So, sir, thanks. And now I'm going to invite, I'm going to invite one of our most famous Kansas Cityans at the moment to join us on the show. It's really an honor to invite Colonel retired Donald Doc Ballard to the show to speak today. Born and raised in Kansas City, Doc Ballard enlisted in the United States Navy in 1965. After he completed his Navy recruit training and hospital corps school, he decided that he wanted to serve as a hospital corpsman in the United States Marine Corps. And he was sent to the Field Medical Service School. After he completed the course there, he was sent to Vietnam in 1967. Ballard was assigned as a Navy corpsman with M Company, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marine Regiment, and the 3rd Marine Division in Quang Tri Province in South Vietnam. On May 16th of 1968, Ballard treated 2 Marines suffering from heat exhaustion, and when returning to his platoon from the casualty evacuation helicopter pad, his rifle company was attacked by a unit of North Vietnamese Army soldiers. While under enemy fire, Ballard was attending to a wounded Marine with an enemy grenade when an enemy grenade landed near the wounded Marine. 4 other Marines and himself. He immediately covered the grenade with his body to shield the 5 Marines from the blast. Realizing that the grenade had failed to explode, he quickly threw it out of harm's way as it exploded, saving the Marines and himself from harm or death. He then continued on attending the wounded Marines during the firefight. For his actions, he received the United States of America's highest military decoration for valor, the Medal of Honor. After having left the Navy the previous year, Ballard received the Medal of Honor from President Richard M. Nixon and General William Westmoreland. Also ironic, since Richard M. Nixon was the architect of the war on drugs. It's an incredible honor to have you here, Doc Ballard. Colonel, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
It's my pleasure to be here with our veterans and our veteran family. It's without a doubt that we come in as speakers for the others that can't speak or won't speak. We've all had different career fields. I'm no different than anybody else. I've always been a public servant, from Boy Scouts to the Navy to the Marine Corps. Coming out of the Marines, I joined the Army. I spent a colorful career in the Army. I commanded a field hospital, much like MASH television, Vietnam instead of Korea. My contribution tonight, basically, since we're short on time, is to point out some very key points that I was part of the establishment. I think all the military people that certainly has military leadership roles, we have to protect our own career. We have to certainly take care of our troops, and we have that thin line to where we have to act as we're told to. You know, I was court-martialing authority after I made field grade. A lot of times I sit on the court-martialing boards, passing judgment on people. And the biggest challenges we had as unit commander was dealing with the alcohol problem much more than it was the drugs. You know, and there's been a lot of study done on it. All we have to do is open our ears, open our minds, allow people like the state of Missouri to come in, do the research, take the heat off of the federal government, give it to somebody that's trained and has the experience to do it correctly, and use their advice. You know, I'm totally with the general in taking this off of Schedule 1. There's no reason. It was all put on there for a political reason back when it was, for taxation purposes and control purposes. No reason to be a Schedule 1 drug higher than cocaine or heroin. That makes no sense. And nothing the government does. So the whole attitude here is we're veterans, supporting each other, wanting to do the right thing, taking care of our buddies, and finding medications and treatment, alternative treatment that works and less invasive on the body. Many studies, I don't care in what field you're in, law enforcement, whatever, that I worked in, as a paramedic on the streets of Kansas City. I was in North Kansas City, rode the paramedic for 20-some years. And most of the problems we had was, mind-altering drugs, right? So everything that you put in your body has a cause and effect. So no matter what it is, if you overdo it, your body rejects it. Marijuana is a mind-altering drug, just like alcohol is, just like tobacco, just like caffeine. All these substances that we consider as mind-altering drugs should be evaluated on all levels. And I think the bottom question should be, is it good for us or is it bad for us?
The main reason is, for the questioning is, does the benefits of using it outweigh the problems caused by it? You know, if we did that, we control cigarettes on the street, we control alcohol, they're still the biggest problems. The more control you put on them, actually the less benefits we get out of them, you know? This is a terrible time in our country with all the hatred and all of the challenges that we faced when we came home from Vietnam. Most of the veterans will recall we were not treated well. We were spat on, we had feces and urine thrown on us. We were the problem. We were never considered the solution. We were always guinea pigs in any other evaluation that we want to evaluate us. They tried drugs on us. They tried anything and everything. The good thing about that is I came home as a trained combat medic. We were the only ones that knew anything about trauma. You know, there was always scoop and run to the nearest hospital. No EMTs, no paramedics, no lifeline. All that came about because of Vietnam and our training.
Absolutely.
So we brought it home, we employed it and engaged it with the cities, and that's what protects us on the street today, is training brought home from Vietnam. I applaud that, and we've never been able to hang anything good on Vietnam until now. We always talk about problems. Let's talk about solutions. That's what we need to be talking about. We're not going to go forward without knowing where we are, identifying where we want to be, and identifying the steps to get us there. Let's take those challenges and see, who can accomplish the most by not taking any credit. You know, it's veterans taking care of veterans. So I'd be glad to answer any question you got, but I personally believe that we owe it to our veterans more than anybody else in this world. Certainly in this society, they have given us our freedom. They keep us safe. They've kept us, and no one understands what those combat boots feel like in the mud, being shot at until you wore them. I can't address my combat experience any more than any other veteran, and I don't try to. My story isn't any better than anybody else's. I gave the best I had. I did the best I could. And it wasn't for Congress or parents back home. It was for the guy on the left and the guy on the right. That's all I had in that whole country was the people that surrounded me, my teammates. We took care of each other because there wasn't anybody else that cared. We came home from Vietnam and the population proved it. Nobody else cared, and we say, well, one person can't make any difference. We've seen an election here just recently, and all these people that turned out don't know the answers, but you can't kill the messenger. The bottom line is we're thankful that we got people that'll stand up to the abnormal and try to make it normal, make some sense out of it. So I applaud all the veterans that step up. I applaud this group. I'm here to support you because I believe in it. My life was always on the other side. I was part of the establishment. I did all the treating of it. I never exposed myself to it because I had a military career or a police department or a fire department career that I couldn't use it myself without jeopardizing my job. I would never make colonel if I'd been caught smoking or had a piss test. There's always, they promote you, first of all, by discrimination. They discriminate you because you don't fit the mold or you had some problem. If you got a little check mark against you, you don't go any farther. So if you're not prim and proper and do everything by somebody else's rules, you don't fit in the society, mold. Well, I proved that I never did fit in the mold. I mean, how many people would risk their life, for a bunch of dirty Marines? They're the ones that protected me. They got my butt home. I loved them. I still love them today. I served in the Navy. I served in the Army. I served in the Marine Corps. And I can tell you, I've loved almost all of it, but I love the Marine Corps the most. I'd go back into combat with the Marines because they took care of Doc.
Always.
I didn't have to worry about anything.
Wow.
Hi, Chris, I know you're a combat medic as well. Everything you said, I amplify and re-emphasize that it's all about caring. There's nothing in it for us. We're not making any money. I'm not making any money tonight. I'm here to support the veterans to receive benefits that are less intrusive and less damaging to the body. I like chiropractics. I like CBD. I like THC, marijuana. I like all that. And I've not used THC to any real extent. I certainly couldn't do it when I was under scrutiny. But I've treated a lot of people that even when I was a commanding officer, I took them aside and asked them, because I suspected. And it wasn't because they were acting funny or they were not in control. It's just they seem to have a little better stamina and a little bit better ability to deal with problems and deal with their health issues. So I wanted to know more about that as being in the medical service world. So all my experience has been that by far medical marijuana I support 1,000%. I haven't gotten much into the recreational side of it because anytime you have the time to abuse it, most people will. Not most, but some. And when you abuse it, it shows bad light on everybody else that benefits from it by playing the rules. I encourage all veterans, all these people came out to vote either side now to get together and put the pressure where it needs to be, and that's on our Congress and our senators, because they're looking to keep their jobs. Our voters count. We need to be talking to them as voters and concerned citizens for us and to get us off the opioids, get us off of these hardcore drugs that have no benefits except for the pharmaceutical companies. Millions and billions of dollars are being made, not because it's doing any good, it's because they can sell it. So I say, let's look at alternative medicine. Let's try to find an easier, more probable solutions that are less profitable.
Absolutely, sir.
Amen.
Thank you very much, sir. That was beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc.
Incredible. Sir, thank you so much for the you come to us from such a unique perspective, I believe, that of first an enlisted man, then an officer, with a full career, multiple services. You've served in the joint environment.
And then in the civilian sector?
In the civilian sector, continue to be a community leader. And of course, being a Medal of Honor recipient carries a huge weight with it. Just being a veteran carries a huge weight with it, but carrying a Medal of Honor around with you, your voice really resonates and rings true. And I think you speak on behalf of a generation and more. So we're really grateful for that, sir. Can you imagine, if we look, it's funny because I go to the World War I Museum all the time, and I would love to visit there sometime with you. It would be an honor. And I look at the medicine and the toolkits that you took into combat in World War I. And then you look at the advances that have been made in what you took into combat during Vietnam and what our soldiers are taking into combat today. Can you imagine with this plant, if the DoD were to turn their research lens on probably the most therapeutically active plant that has ever existed, how quickly we could advance and what the future of medicine, not only on the battlefield, but on the civilian field, and the ability to treat trauma and the ability to treat chronic pain might look like. I think we have a beautiful future ahead of us, and I think the Show Me State is going to be a place where we're going to see it in huge numbers. And I hope this isn't the last time we talk. Chris, Absolutely. Do you have any questions?
Well, I've got a couple of comments. You heard me say earlier, everything I learned in medic school was case studies that came from Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And they took a look at all of the battlefield fatalities that they deemed preventable from Vietnam. And then they taught us those 5 things. And Doc, I appreciate the hard lessons you learned that I got to learn in a classroom instead of a battlefield. And I appreciate that. Here's something most people don't know about Colonel Doc Ballard. Not only did he serve in the military in virtually every branch, and there's not a Marine that won't claim him. You said there were no Marines here tonight, but a corpsman is every Marine's favorite Marine.
Yeah.
Then he served in the civilian sector, and then he saw a hole, and in the true spirit of a serviceman, he realized that there were veterans that weren't being buried honorably. And late in life, he became a mortician and opened a cemetery so that these veterans could be buried honorably out in Grain Valley.
Wow.
So from cradle to grave, this is a man who's been a hero of mine regardless of any accolades he received for actions, but they don't call it diving on a grenade for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for you to step forward, Doc, and help us lead discharge, I would like to say that I'm surprised that someone of your stature would risk the reputation hit, but I'm not surprised because you've been doing it your whole dang life. And I love you for it, and I call you friend.
We are incredibly grateful.
We're blessed to have you on the team.
I say don't kill the messenger, because the message should be listened to and heeded, because we know, we come from experiences.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I was a policeman. I saw stuff on the street. I arrested people for having it in possession. And a paramedic, EMT, firefighter. I retired as a captain on the fire department. All of that experience brought me to realize that we're wrong, and that we need, to take care of the veterans without putting him in harm's way of other worse drugs. Again, my problems were not the marijuana people. It was the people that were trying to get on the prescription drugs more than anything else, and then the alcohol. They weren't getting help anywhere else, so they self-medicated, and that never works, So we need guidance. We need, like any other substance, we need to control it, and there's no control without doing the research first.
Amen.
I say tell them to come to Missouri, see what the research is showing, and let us lead the way, let Missouri lead the way on producing the quality assurance that medical grade marijuana.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sir.
Thank you so much for taking the time tonight,
So
Doc.
if we can get the DOD to come out, will you join us in the conversation?
I'm gonna kick their butt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And
oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Doc. I love
you.
My wife tells me all the time that I colonelize people. They want to hear what I got to say. Well, damn it, shut up and listen. And start taking heed, or I'll find your ass in the brain.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us, Doc.
Really appreciate it.
Keep up the good work. I'll be here to support you until I can't. So I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you
sir.
very much. And thank you for everything.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Hey, thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. I just want to say one final thing, that we are not here to denigrate the Department of Defense.
Absolutely not.
Or the Veterans Administration whatsoever, or this country. I mean, we are an amazing country filled with amazing organizations in it. We put 6 flags on the moon. We can do anything. We can do anything, and I believe that cannabis is not too complex for us, right? We could be the global leader in medical cannabis research. We could lead the way in a
Absolutely.
revolution in medical affairs. We could forward this paradigm shift of cannabis and hemp re-legalization and really impact major societal issues of our time. I think the veteran community is an amazing place to start because we are a cross-section of society. We are here in the middle of the country in Kansas City,
Absolutely.
Missouri. Come on out, and I hope we get to do this again. If you liked the show, please comment on it. Please subscribe to Evolution Magazine. My brothers over here, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you, Clay.
Don't forget, if you know a veteran that you think might benefit from medical cannabis, to go ahead and tag them on the Evolution page, so that the VPA can get them in front of a doctor with Elevate Holistics, and let that doctor really dig deep into what their issues are and if they think medical cannabis can benefit from them. It's not just a rubber stamp, you're good to go. They actually do the hard work to make sure that it's a benefit.
Oh yeah, and it's great too because now we can do it online, face to face, or online.
Everything
or
with Elevate's telemedicine.
I did mine at the World War I Museum on my phone. Yeah, is amazing. So anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Clay.
Thanks for
Take
having
it
us,
away.
Clay.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Are we're all good? And thank the production crew here tonight as well, putting this together. Guys, I've been sitting over here bawling my eyes out this whole show tonight. It's just like I can't believe that I'm witnessing this from like right here on the side of the stage. I'm just blown away. We want to continue bringing these shows to you guys. So in order to do that, we had to pay these production crews. We had to pay these people to come here. Not Todd and Chris. They're all volunteering because they believe in the movement, as well as all of our guests tonight via Zoom, all volunteering their time and their expertise. And we want to bring these shows to you on a regular basis. So. If you guys want to keep seeing these shows, let's find a way to take care of James here behind the ones and twos, AV Level Up, Cat with Cat King Films. They donated tons of time, 3 months along those lines of free work to help get to where we're at now, along with a couple of other production crews that help us out. Guys, if you want to continue to see this kind of shows, help us bring them to you. We're looking for sponsors to continue this series. We obviously have guys that have the connections to bring people like we had tonight on the show. We have people like Happy Rock Farms who are donating their space here that allow us to do these amazing shows. We have amazing advocates on the Kansas side who are looking for support to try to push legislation there. So we have the connections here. We're just looking for some sponsors to help push this whole thing, to help continue the movement, to help bring the stories of the people who have fought for our country, who have not only fought for our country, but who are going to continue to fight for this movement because they realize now that this is not just what the government told them that it was. They realize that this is something on a whole another level, and we want to bring those stories to you guys. Thanks so much for Todd Scattini, for Chris Wolfenbarger here, Happy Rock Farms. Thank you guys for tuning in. Normally I would plug next week's show, but I can't even. I just want to end on this note of great job, Todd. Great job, Chris.
Thank you.
All of our veteran people that came on the show tonight. I hope that we can continue this. Happy Veterans Day, everybody, and thank you for your support. One last time, let's give a warm round of applause for our host and co-host tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
We will see you next week. Happy Veterans Day, everybody.
Thank you. There you go. Happy Rock Farms. Thank you.